Hello and welcome. My name is Alan, and we are back with more Greek mythology. Today, we are getting into two more stories of lovers, as we did in the previous episode. So, today we are starting out with Ceyx and Alcyone. So, let's get into this. Ovid is the best source for this story. The exaggeration of the storm is typically Roman. Sleep's abode with the charming details shows Ovid's power of description. The names of the gods, of course, are Latin. Ceyx, a king in Thessaly, was the son of Lucifer, the light bearer, the star that brings in the day, and all his father's bright gladness was in his face. His wife, Alcyone, was also of high descent. She was the daughter of Aeolus, king of the winds. The two loved each other devotedly and were never willingly apart. Nevertheless, a time came when he decided he must leave her and take a long journey across the sea. Various matters happened to disturb him, and he wished to consult the oracle, men's refuge in trouble. When Alcyone learned what he was planning, she was overwhelmed with grief that he was planning. She was overwhelmed with grief and terror. She told him with streaming tears and in a voice broken with sobs that she knew, as few others could, the power of the winds upon the sea. In her father's palace, she had watched them from her childhood, their stormy meetings, the black clouds they summoned, and the wild red lightning. And many a time upon the beach, she said, I have seen the broken planks of ships tossed up. Oh, do not go! But if I cannot persuade you, at least take me with you. I can endure whatever comes to us together. Ceyx was deeply moved, for she loved him no better than he loved her. But his purpose held fast. He felt that he must get counsel from the oracle, and he would not hear of her sharing the perils of the voyage. She had to yield and let him go alone. Her heart was so heavy when she bade him farewell, it was as if she foresaw that what was to come. She waited on the shore, watching the ship until it sailed out of sight. That very night, a fierce storm broke over the sea. The winds all met with a mad hurricane, and the waves rose up mountain high. Rain fell in such sheets that the whole heavens seemed falling into the sea, and the sea seemed leaping up into the sky. The men on the quivering, battered boat were mad with terror, all except one who thought only of Alcyone and rejoiced that she was in safety. Her name was on his lips when the ship sank and the waters closed over him. Alcyone was counting off the days. She kept herself busy, weaving a robe for him against his return and another for herself to be lovely in when he first saw her. And many times each day she prayed to the gods for him, to Juno most of all. The goddess was touched by those prayers for one who had long been dead. She summoned her messenger, Iris, and ordered her to go to the house of Somnus, god of sleep, and bid him send a dream to Alcyone to tell her the truth about Ceyx. The abode of sleep is near the black country of the Cimmerians, in a deep valley where the sun never shines and dusky twilight wraps all things in shadows. No cock crows there, no watchdog breaks the silence, no branches rustle in the breeze, no clamor of tongues disturbs the peace. The only sound comes from the gently flowing stream of Lethe, the river of forgetfulness, where the waters murmuring entice to sleep. Before the door poppies bloom, the other drowsy herbs. Within, the god of slumber lies upon a couch, downy, soft, and black of hue. There came Iris in her cloak of many colors, trailing across the sky in a rainbow curve, and the dark house was lit up with the shining of her garments. Even so, it was hard for her to make the god open his heavy eyes and understand what he was required to do. As soon as she was sure he was really awake and her errand done, Iris sped away, fearful that she too might sink forever into slumber. The old god of sleep aroused his son Morpheus, skilled in assuming the form of any and every human being, and he gave him Juno's orders. On noiseless wings, Morpheus flew through the darkness and stood by Alcyone's bed. He had taken on the face and form of Ceyx, drowned. Naked and dripping wet, he bent over her couch. "Poor wife," he said, "look, your husband is here. Do you know me, or is my face changed in death? I am dead, Alcyone. Your name was on my lips when the waters overwhelmed me. There is no hope for me any more, but give me your tears. Let me not go down to the shadowy land unwept." In her sleep, Alcyone moaned and stretched her arms out to clasp him. She cried aloud, "Wait for me, I will go with you." And her cry awakened her. She woke to the conviction that her husband was dead, that what she had seen was no dream, but himself. "I saw him on that very spot," she told herself. "So piteous he looked. He is dead, and soon I shall die. Could I stay here when his dead body is tossed about in the waves? I will not leave you, my husband. I will not try to live." With the first daylight, she went to the shore, to the headland where she had stood to watch him sail away. As she gazed seaward, far off on the water, she saw something floating. The tide was setting in, and the thing came nearer and nearer until she knew it was a dead body. She watched it with pity and horror in her heart as it drifted slowly toward her. And now it was close to the headland, almost beside her. It was he, Ceyx, her husband. She ran and leaped into the water, crying, "Husband, dearest!" And then, oh wonder, instead of sinking into the waves, she was flying over them. She had wings. Her body was covered with feathers. She had been changed into a bird. The gods were kind. They did the same to Ceyx. As she flew to the body, it was gone, and he, changed into a bird like herself, joined her. But their love was unchanged. They are always seen together, flying or riding the waves. Every year there are 7 days on end when the sea lies still and calm. No breath of wind stirs the waters. These are the days when Alcyone broods over her nest floating on the sea. After the young birds are hatched, the charm is broken. But each winter these days of perfect peace come, and they are called after her Alcyone, or more common, Halcyon days. So it is supposed to be Alcyone. While the birds of calm sit brooding on the charmed wave. Pygmalion and Galatea. This story is told only by Ovid, and the goddess of love is therefore Venus. It is an excellent example of Ovid's way of dressing up a myth, for which see the introductions. A gifted young sculptor of Cyprus named Pygmalion was a woman-hater, detesting the faults beyond measure which nature has given to women. He resolved never to marry. His art, he told himself, was enough for him. Nevertheless, the statue he made and devoted all his genius to was that of a woman. Either he could not dismiss what he so disapproved of from his mind as easily as from his life, or else he was bent on forming a perfect woman and showing men the deficiencies of the kind they had to put up with. However that was, he labored long and devotedly on the statue and produced a most exquisite work of art. But lovely as it was, he could not rest content. He kept on working at it, and daily under the skillful fingers it grew more beautiful. No woman ever born, no statue ever made, could approach it. When nothing could be added to its perfections, a strange fate had befallen its creator. He had fallen in love, deeply, passionately in love, with the thing he had made. It must be said in explanation that the statue did not look like a statue. No one would have thought it was ivory or stone, but warm human flesh, motionless for a moment only. Such was the wondrous power of this disdainful young man. The supreme achievement of art was his, the art of concealing art. But from that time on, the sex he scorned had their revenge. No hopeless lover of a living maiden was ever so desperately unhappy as Pygmalion. He kissed those enticing lips. They could not kiss him back. He caressed her hands, her face. They were unresponsive. He took her in his arms. She remained a cold and passive form. For a time he tried to pretend, as children do with their toys. He would dress her in rich robes, trying the effect of one of the delicate of glowing color after another, and imagine she was pleased. He would bring her the gifts real maidens love, little birds and gay flowers, and the shining tears of amber Phaethon's sisters weep, and then dream that she thanked him with eager affection. He put her to bed at night and tucked her in all soft and warm, as little girls do their dolls. But he was not a child. He could not keep on pretending. In the end, he gave up. He loved a lifeless thing, and he was utterly and hopelessly wretched. This singular passion did not long remain concealed from the goddess of passionate love. Venus was interested in something that seldom came her way, a new kind of lover, and she determined to help a young man who could be enamored and yet original. The feast day of Venus was, of course, especially honored in Cyprus, the island which first received the goddess after she rose from the foam. Snow-white heifers whose horns had been gilded were offered in numbers to her. The heavenly odor of incense was spread throughout the island from her many altars. Crowds thronged her temples. Not an unhappy lover but was there with his gift, praying that his love might turn kind. There too, of course, was Pygmalion. He dared to ask the goddess only that he might find a maiden like his statue, but Venus knew that what he really wanted, and as a sign that she favored his prayer, the flame on the altar he stood before leaped up 3 times, blazing into the air. Very thoughtful at this good omen, Pygmalion sought his house and his love, the thing he had created and given his heart to. There she stood on her pedestal, entrancingly beautiful. He caressed her, and then he started back. Was it self-deception, or did she really feel warm to his touch? He kissed her lips, a long, lingering kiss, and felt them grow soft beneath his. He touched her arms, her shoulders, their hardness vanished. It was like watching wax soften in the sun. He clasped her wrist. Blood was pulsing there. Venus, he thought, this is the goddess's doing. And with unutterable gratitude and joy, he put his arms around his love and saw her smile into his eyes and blush. Venus herself graced their marriage with her presence, but what happened after that we do not know, except that Pygmalion named the maiden Galatea, and that their son Paphos gave his name to Venus's favorite city. So yeah, that was 2 stories of love. The first 2 we read last episode had sadder endings. The first one we read today was semi-sad, but not bad. Yes, the man died, but he was brought back to his wife. And then they were both changed into birds so that they could live together. Their love unchanged by the event. So, I mean, in the end, the ending was somewhat happy. But that story, Pygmalion and Galatea, a man who found only perfection in the sculpture he had made of a woman, he had actually fallen in love with that image, with the actual sculpture, as if she was female already, or a real woman already, I should say. His heart was softened, and he's like, I want to be with her. You know, I've made such an amazing sculpture, but I cannot stand the fact that she will not ever love me back, because she is not real. She has no feelings, no emotions. But Venus actually took pity on Pygmalion and turned the sculpture into a real woman. So it's perhaps the one we've seen with the happiest outcome for the two. By and far. Even though, honestly, I kind of prefer the first story, Alcyone and Ceyx. Yeah, that I kind of enjoyed. He went on a doomed voyage. His wife begged him not to go, but he went anyway. She was so distraught that she was about to take her own life, but he would be brought back to her. And the gods would change them both into birds. So yeah, I think that is a more, I don't know, I just enjoy the story more than I did Galatea and Pygmalion. Yes, there are lessons to learn with that second story, but it just, I don't know. For me personally, it don't hit as hard as the first one did. The first one, I think, well, I mean, in both of them, honestly, we see some of the few acts in which the gods were overtly kind to mortals. Because remember, we've already talked about how fickle the gods can be. They can be vicious. They did not even want mankind to have fire. It only came to man because of the Titan Prometheus, who would end up paying for his act by being chained to a mountain, and I think it's supposed to be vultures that peck out his liver, but being immortal, it would always heal back. So it was just a continuous torture. But yeah. Um, but yeah, we'll end this episode there. As always, educate thyself. Think, read, study, learn. Someone tells you something you have trouble believing, ask them to cite their sources. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all in the next episode. Until then, later.